Hey guys, Mr. Browse. Welcome to your next video. This one's going to be on ordering real numbers. So how do I order rational and irrational numbers on a number line? So this is objective 8.2b. Go ahead and pause the video to write this down if you have to. If you glued your little foldable a little further down, you're able to write all in the top part of the foldable or the top part of the page. That would be ideal. So stop the video if you have to. Otherwise, we're moving on. So we have comparing and ordering real numbers. So you should have had this glued down in class. If you don't have this because you lost it or you were absent, still just go ahead and write this information down right here, these numbers, and you can do the work like on top of it, okay? Because we still want you to be able to watch the video even if you weren't here. So let's go ahead and just start with 3 1/5. So the idea when we're ordering real numbers and comparing them is you want all the numbers in the same form. And so usually 2 will go from least to greatest, which would mean ascending, right? So ascending. And so that must mean descending is from greatest to least. So if you're in Miss Wilson's class, I'm going to apologize ahead of time for my terrible handwriting. But that says ascending order least to greatest, descending order is greatest to least, okay? So let's move on with starting to solve some of these. So 3 1/5. So we know the Texas method to get this into a improper fraction. So what you could do is you could turn that into the Texas method, or you could just simply turn 1/5 into a decimal and then add the 3 back on. So let's just do that way real quick. So the 3 is just going to go down here as our answer. Okay, we know it's going to be 3 point something. So let's divide 5 and 1. Okay, so 1 is the numerator. 5 does not go into 1 evenly, so we have to put a decimal and add a 0. 5 goes into 10. How many times? It'll be 2. Okay, so then we just are going to add that 0.2 back on over here. So it's just going to be 3.2 is our answer. Okay, that one's easy enough. So now we'll talk about the square root of 14. So we know our square roots. We know how to find them if they are a imperfect square. So the square root of 14 is imperfect. There's no number, there's no whole number that goes into it. So there's no whole number that's squared that goes into it. So we do know though that it's between 3 and 4. It's got to be in between the square root of, or the square of 3, sorry. It's got to be in between 3 and 4. So that would be the square root of 9 and the square root of 16, right? So it's in between those two. So when we have an issue like this, honestly, what we're just going to do is we are just going to go ahead and estimate here because we don't have calculators, so we're not going to be able to figure out the exact number here. We could do a guess and check, but we're just going to estimate instead. So is square root of 14 closer to 9 or 16? It's closer to 16, right? It's only 2 away. So what we're going to say is this is roughly 3, because it's got to be more than 3 but less than 4. So it's 3 point something, right? So we're going to say this is roughly 3.75, okay? Because remember, you go in between the two square roots of 9 and 16, but it's closer to 16. All right, so if it was, you know, maybe right in between the two, we could make it 3.5. So in pi, guys, this is just on your reference material for 7th grade. Pi is 3.14. We will only go to the hundredths place. It's a never-ending number, but it'll only go to the hundredths place. So now we have the square root of 36 divided by 2. So what you have to do first is find out what the square root of 36 is. So remember, a square is a number times itself. Well, the square root is almost like kind of the opposite. So what number times itself would equal 36 is what you have to think about. So we should probably have these memorized by now. If not, maybe that's a good thing to work on it while you're at home. Instead of playing Fortnite, you can go ahead and start memorizing your perfect squares. Not a terrible idea. So the square root of 36 is actually 6. And then you'd go 6 over 2. So now you're just dividing. And what's 6 divided by 2 is 3. So this would equal 3. And then you have 11 thirds. So this one, to get the number, to get the decimal that it is, we're just going to have to divide. So what goes inside the house would be 11, and 3 is going to go outside. So 3 does not go into 11 evenly. So we got to think 3 goes into 11 3 times, right? And that's going to equal 9. And so that's going to leave us with 2 left. But now we have to add a decimal and a 0, bring it down. And 3 goes into 20. How many times? 6 times, so that would be 18. Bring another decimal down, or a 0 down rather. And so it's going to be 20 every single time if we keep going. So this is just 3.6 repeated, okay? So we can write it like that, 3.6 repeated. Pen's running out of ink. Let me switch colors here on you. Okay, so now that's comparing them. We're just comparing them. We're looking at each one. Now, this is not in order of what we're going to put them on the number line at all. Okay, so we have to figure out which one goes first. So we start at 3, go to 4, so we're going least to greatest. And it even says it right here, least to greatest. So make sure you're actually ordering them least to greatest. So the one that's closest to 3 is obviously the one that is 3, right? So the square root of 36 over 2. And we're not going to write 3 above this. We're actually going to fill in a circle here. And we are going to write the square root of 36 over 2. Okay? That's how we're going to write these when we order them on a number line. Okay, so then the next one, if we look for what's closer, okay, 3.2 is pretty close. But 3.14 would actually be even closer. So that would just be, if this is 3, each one of these would be 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, okay? So this would be 3.1, so we're going to go like right about here, and we're going to put pi, okay? So we've done this one, we've done this one, so now let's see which other ones we have to do. So now let's go on to something that's in between 3 and 3.5. That would be 3 1/5 right here. So that's 3.2. That would go right here, and that's 3 1/5. Okay. And so now let's look for the next one. So we did that one. Only 2 left to go. We have 3.75 and 3.6. Obviously, 3.6 is going to go first. So we're going to do 11 thirds. And then the last one here would be 3.75. That's the square root of 14. So we're going to go right about here with that one. So again, you're writing what it actually was, not what it came to be when you converted them all to the same. Guys, that's all we have. Try to make it as short as sweet as possible. So do make sure that you know that ascending means least to greatest and descending means greatest to least. Think of it like this: an airplane ascends off the ground, whereas a submarine descends into the sea. All right. We'll see you guys in class.